Who stole the cookies from the cookie jar? This video is going to take you through a detective's work. You are going to be guessing along the way who committed this crime based on the clues that we find. Good luck! Clue number 1. Mrs. Snyder went to the kitchen at work to grab a snack to hold her over until lunch. When she went to grab the cookie jar, it was gone! All that was left was some crumbs from the cookies. There were a lot of them scattered all over the counter. Any guesses? Clue number 2. As Mrs. Snyder walked down the hallway back to her classroom, she noticed that the crumbs traveled as well. They went all the way down the hallway and into the janitor's closet. Mrs. Snyder decided to follow the crumbs. Does that mean the janitor did it? Make a guess. Clue number 3. When Mrs. Snyder opened the closet door, her eye was drawn to the floor immediately. She saw the cookie jar lid on the ground, surrounded by cookie crumbs. Seems pretty suspicious. Do you have any guesses of who did it? Clue number 4. The closer Mrs. Snyder looked at the cookie jar lid, the more clues she found. There were clear, dirty fingerprints all around the rim of the jar. This had to help her solve the mystery of the missing cookie jar, right? Mrs. Snyder took a picture of the large thumbprint on the cookie jar. If you look at the thumbprint, you can see that it has a very clear print. If you look at your thumbprint, it's going to look different than your neighbor's thumbprint. So I'm hoping that this will help Mrs. Snyder find out who was guilty. Clue number 5. Mrs. Snyder was excited about her find, but was so confused of why there were dirty fingerprints on the rim of the jar. Who in the school would have dirty fingerprints? Let's come up with a list together of who in the school would have dirty fingerprints. Clue number 6. Her first thought was the janitor. She ran to find Mr. Bow. Much to her surprise, Mr. Bow's hands were squeaky clean, as he had just gotten to work because he had been out sick the last 3 days. Who else could it be? Suddenly, Mrs. Snyder had an idea. Clue number 7. Mrs. Snyder ran straight for the art room. She knew that Mrs. Plaw was working with clay all week with her students. As soon as Mrs. Snyder walked into her room, she knew she was in the right place. She saw crumbs all over the floor. Mrs. Snyder walked over to Mrs. Plaw and asked to see her hands. When she flipped over her hands, Mrs. Snyder began to try and match up the thumbprints. So if you look, there's a picture of the cookie jar thumbprint and Mrs. Plaw's thumbprint. Do you think that they match? Clue number 8. Aha! Miss Snyder had caught the culprit. It was Mrs. Plaw who took the cookie jar and ate the cookies. I just couldn't help myself. I was so hungry, and those cookies looked so good, explained Mrs. Plaw. Mrs. Snyder had a talk with her about appropriately handling her self-control. This case is closed, and Mrs. Plaw is guilty.